From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Tuesday the 22nd of November 2022. Good afternoon. Today we're going to be talking about the current state of Kosovo-Serbia relations. We'll also be discussing three of today's other important stories and discussing Germany's offer of a Patriot system to Poland. But first, tensions between Kosovo and Serbia. A last-minute attempt to resolve a dispute between Serbia and Kosovo over licence plates has failed, with the European Union, who mediated the emergency talks, warning of the potential for escalation and violence. Disputes between Kosovo and Serbia are nothing new, and the long-running dispute over car licence plates is likely one you have heard of before. The EU's top diplomat said yesterday that things have gone from crisis to crisis, as these latest talks happened only 3 months after the last crisis meeting, and since then the licence plates dispute has worsened. So what exactly is going on? Well, first, some quick context. The licence plate issue is part of a wider political and territorial dispute between the two parties involving a war in the late 90s and a declaration of independence by Kosovo in 2008. Kosovo's declaration of independence from Serbia is deemed illegal by Serbia, meaning Serbia rejects Kosovo's proclaimed independence. But since then, just over 50% of the world's nations, including the US, UK, and a large majority of EU countries, have recognised Kosovo as independent. Negotiations between the two parties have largely been facilitated and mediated by the European Union, of which neither country is a member. The almost 2-year-long dispute over licence plates centres on the use of Serbian-issued car licence plates within Kosovo and has seen tensions flare a number of times. The government in Kosovo wants the ethnic Serb minority in northern Kosovo to surrender their Serbian-issued plates and use Kosovo plates instead. This is thought to affect around 10,000 drivers. A phased plan to end the use of Serb plates would have seen fines imposed on drivers using Serb-issued plates from today, the 22nd of November. This planned implementation of the fines, according to the EU, has seen Kosovo Serbs withdraw from institutions in northern Kosovo. Some 600 police officers put down their uniform, and also the resignation of judges and local administrative staff. The EU's foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell, said this leaves a dangerous security vacuum in an already very fragile situation. In a statement after the last-minute talks, Borrell said both Serbian President Vučić and Kosovo Prime Minister Albin Kurti bear an important responsibility for the failure of the talks today and for any escalation and violence that might occur in the coming days. But Borrell appeared to put more blame on Kosovo, saying he'd put forward a proposal that the Serbian president had agreed to, but that Kosovo's prime minister rejected. The rejection, according to Borrell, sent a very negative political signal. The proposal would have seen Kosovo suspend the further stages of its licence plate plan, while Serbia would stop issuing new licence plates with Kosovan cities' denominations. In response, Kosovan President Osmani accused the EU's top diplomat of accommodating the aggressor and presenting a completely distorted reality. But while the talks failed to resolve the dispute, Kosovo's Prime Minister tweeted in the early hours of Tuesday morning that he would accept a proposal from the US ambassador to postpone the enforcement of the rules for another 48 hours in order to work with the US and the EU to find a solution. Okay, so that's the biggest story of the day, but there's a lot more going on around the world. So here's a rundown of 3 other stories. Yesterday, Indonesia was hit by a 5.6 magnitude earthquake. The quake hit near the town of Cianjur, in Indonesia's most populous West Java province, killing 162 and injuring hundreds more. The governor of the region has told reporters that, as many buildings have collapsed, the death toll could rise. Many of those affected were students in school, and it's been reported that about 51 education units have been affected, including 30 elementary schools, 12 junior high schools, 1 high school, 5 vocational schools, and 1 special school. The rescue effort is still underway today, with police and other emergency workers desperately searching for survivors. Infrastructure has been hit hard too, causing electricity blackouts. Landslides have additionally made it hard to evacuate the victims. Things get worse too because, due to the devastation of the earthquake, many of the victims are being treated in hospital parking lots, sometimes even in emergency tents. There's more on the way, but be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to make the daily briefing part of your daily routine, or just search for us on your podcast app to listen along. Turkey's President Erdogan is considering a ground offensive in northern Syria and Iraq after Turkish forces launched cross-border airstrikes targeting Kurdish militants accused of carrying out a recent bomb attack in Istanbul that killed 6. Erdogan said this is not limited to just an air campaign, adding that he'll consult with the Defence Ministry and General Staff and then act accordingly. This wouldn't be a first. Turkey has conducted a number of incursions and carried out strikes on Kurdish targets in northern Syria and Iraq in recent years. Turkey blames the recent terror attack on the Kurdistan Workers' Party, which has fought an insurgency against Turkey since 1984, and affiliated Syrian Kurdish groups like the YPG, though Kurdish fighters deny any involvement. The US has urged Turkey to de-escalate in Syria, while Russia called on Turkey to exercise restraint and refrain from an excessive use of force. A significant land offensive could strain ties with the US, a NATO partner, as America has allied with and supported Kurdish-dominated groups like the Syrian Democratic Forces in the fight against ISIS. It could also further strain Turkish ties with Russia, which has operated in parts of Syria as an ally of the Assad regime. Moving on to the US now, and this year has not really been brilliant for the 45th President of the United States. Mr. Trump is at the centre of the January the 6th committee investigation. He's witnessed his candidates get trounced in this year's midterms, and there are a number of ongoing trials which accuse his organisation of tax avoidance and criminal tax fraud. The final of these seems to be in the news today, with prosecutors in the Trump organisation's criminal tax fraud trial resting their case earlier than expected. Their case rests largely on testimony from 2 top executives who allege they attempted to avoid tax on company-paid perks. Trump personally blames Mazars USA LLP, his accounting firm, for the fraud, saying on his Truth Social platform last week that the highly paid accounting firm should have routinely picked these things up. We relied on them. Very unfair. The trial is ongoing. In the final uplifting news story today, we discuss the celebration of England player Jack Grealish in the England v Iran World Cup match yesterday. Prior to playing for England, Grealish met a boy with cerebral palsy named Finley, who asked him if he could do an unusual worm dance if he scored. Upon scoring, Grealish did indeed do the dance, and about it said, "Finley, that was for you." In response to the dance, Finley remarked, "I just can't believe it. It feels like a dream come true." That's all we have time for on YouTube, but if you want to see our discussion of Poland's Patriot system, then watch the extended ad-free edition of the Daily Briefing over on Nebula. Nebula subscribers not only get everything you've already watched ad-free, but also an extended edition of the show every single day, available to watch on Nebula or stream on your podcast app of choice. So if you want to support the channel and get a more extensive daily briefing every day, you'll want to sign up. And there's good news. Our friends at CuriosityStream, the streaming service which offers some of the best documentaries, is offering a deal whereby you can get both platforms, CuriosityStream and Nebula, for less than $15 a year. That's all the best documentaries you could want on CuriosityStream, and then more TLDR on Nebula, including the extended briefing, other full exclusive TLDR videos, and it's always ad-free. Click the link below to get both services for less than $15 a year and support the channel.